everyone, we're back again with a different kind of video here. So today, this has kind of been something I've been wanting to do for a while. We're going to do the console tier list. So as you can see, we got all these consoles here, and we're going to be ranking them in this chart up here. And this is basically just going to obviously be my opinion. This is no definitive list, and a lot of these I don't even have any experience with, so we'll just kind of be skipping past them, and we'll just do the ones that I actually own and have used. So first up, we got the Atari Pong. And it's kind of hard to do ones like this. It's like, for the time it was really cool, but nowadays, most of these consoles have a version of Pong on them, but this does have the paddles. So, and it is very cool and it's very important from a historical standpoint. So for that, I will put it in C. Yeah, I mean, it's very cool, but it's not much reason to own it today beyond collector purposes. Same thing with the Coleco Telstar, put that C tier as well. The original Odyssey, very, very, very important. This is the first video game console, really, and super important, but not one that you're gonna go back to today and play. It's more of a collector's console. Super important, and obviously, if this didn't exist, we wouldn't have any of these other ones. But in terms of playing today, which is mainly what I'm going off of here, we're gonna put it in D tier. The games today are very, very primitive. The Atari 2600, I feel, has aged very well. Oh yeah, these are colored, so this is by generation, I think. These colors in the top. Atari 2600, fantastic system. Tons of great games. I feel still holds up really well today, and for me, it's an easy S tier console for sure. Tons of fantastic games on this console, and I feel this is the one that really started where we are today. Atari 5200, fantastic games, but hindered by an awful controller. There is alternatives, but they are very pricey. And if you didn't know, I have a whole library of these games in my collection. So, I really do like this system, but for the average person who's going to be buying it, I guess I should just go off my own opinion. I think for me, it's a B tier system. Probably a lot higher than it would be on most people's list. ColecoVision, great graphics, great sound. Again, controllers, I'm not a big fan of them at all. Kind of ruin it for me. But again, there's alternatives, and once you get those alternatives, fantastic console. Or put it B tier, higher than the 5200. Fairchild Channel F. I own one of these, but it's not something I have actually hooked up, at all times. Same with the Pong consoles, but those are pretty self-explanatory. Kind of cool, but very primitive graphics, and the games don't hold up nearly as well as from the 2600. The controllers suck. They're very bad. Cool system, but for playing today, it's got to be a D tier. Sorry. It is cool, though, for sure, and I do really appreciate it, and I would like to get some more stuff for it in the future. The Vectrex, very cool. Very innovative system with the vector graphics. It's got, one of the better controllers of its era for sure, and very cool. It's not a home console, and it's very unique. Not very many games, but the ones that are there are fun, so I'm going to put it in C tier. Intellivision. I really like the Intellivision, but again, the controllers, really hamper it for me. Much better graphics and sound than the 2600, but the controllers and the complicity, a lot of the games are very complicated to me, and I'm not the biggest fan of needing to read the manual before playing a game. It's just not my thing, but there is a lot of fun games, there is a lot of classics on this system, but for me, I would much rather play these two. I don't know if it's just personal preference or what, but for me, it's going in C tier. Game & Watch. The Game & Watch, it's kind of hard to compare these against each other. It's almost like I should have done handhelds and then like home systems, but I don't know. We're going to do it this way. Game & Watch, very simple but very charming games. There's obviously tons of different versions, so I'm not sure exactly which one we're talking about here. you know, we're gonna put it in D tier just for playing today. But again, when it came out, very cool, and they are very charming and fun to collect, you know, today. 7800. Backwards compatible 2600s. That's awesome. Controller is great. Well, not great, but it fits in your hand well. I actually like it better than the 2600 standard joystick. It might be a little controversial there, but it has 2 buttons, and the exclusives are really good. Not tons of 7800 games even came out, but the ones that did, I feel were really fun. And you know, this is hard because if we're backwards compatibility, obviously it's going to be above the 2600. But for my list, I'm not going to count that as, I mean, I'm going to count it a little bit, but it's not going to be like, oh, since this can play 2600 games, it's obviously better. We're mainly going off the exclusives here. And for me, we're going to put it at the top of B tier. Very good system. And the 5200 can also play 2600 games, as well as the ColecoVision and the Intellivision. So all of these can play 2600 games. So, you know, so what the hell? That's a weird picture of a Commodore 64. That's what even is that? Okay, but you know, iconic computer, amazing sound and graphics for the time, amazing games. You know, I love a lot of the arcade ports on the Commodore 64. My biggest gripe with it is the setup. It's not an easy thing to just put in, like, you know, without having it on a desk. It's not an easy thing to just have set up unless you're just playing cartridge games. Which, let's be honest, most of the great games are not on cartridge. They're on floppy disks. I mean, it's a great computer, and I feel a lot of the games have aged very well. There's a lot of adventure games too, which are kind of cool, the early ones. I'm gonna put it top of B tier, maybe creeping into A, but we're gonna leave it in B for now. The Nintendo Entertainment System, NES, obviously. Great system. I wasn't the biggest fan of it when I first got it, just because I was younger and I sucked at the games. But now that I've gotten better, and I've really started to appreciate the difficulty of a lot of these games, and the controller was awesome. I mean, that was just amazing that they made this controller, you know, back then. It's very innovative, great sound, graphics for the time. You know, it's an 8-bit machine, and a lot of the games really took advantage of that. And it's so many great games, like insane amount. So for me, it's got to be, it's S tier. It's maybe creeping down into A, but we're gonna put it in S tier. I mean, there's so many great games in the NES. It's insane. Master System is one I don't have hooked up. You know, better graphics than the NES. Sound is probably technically better, but I prefer the sound of the NES. Controllers, I don't know. I don't like it as much. There's just not many killer apps, at least that I'm a big fan of. You know, for me, like, at least the games that I own, I would say, you know, it has the card games and it has the VR glasses, but I don't know. None of the card games are really that great, at least the ones that I've played. It's a fine system. I'll put it in C. I'll actually put it below the Intellivision. I'm gonna. I guess we could put these in orders. This is definitely the top of C tier. And we'll do it like this. We'll put the Pong console. Oh, no, the Pong consoles can't be above the Master System. So that's kind of our list here. We'll kind of make it in order. Atari Lynx, I have. Why are both Lynx on here? I don't own this one, so we're not going to count that. I own the Model 2. And oh, okay, Sega. I gotta say, it's not made by Sega, but again, I have one game. It's like, I think Shadow of the Beast, I think is what it is, something like that. You know, fine game, but I really don't have enough experience to fairly rank it. Great graphics and sound for the time. Terrible D-pad. Terrible button placement. For me, it's a D, but it should be higher up probably, but I just don't have enough experience with it. So for me, it's a D. TurboGrafx. Very good system. Again, I feel like a lot of these I'm saying that, but it wasn't super cutting edge when it came out. But again, really good games, a lot of shooters, some great platformers. I'm not the biggest Bonk fan though, surprisingly. So, which is like the super popular game on the system. For me, it's probably a C system. It's definitely above the Vectrex. It feels weird to have the Intellivision in front of it. We'll put it above the Intellivision. I'd rather play TurboGrafx than Intellivision. The CD I do own, but mine does not work, so we're not going to rank that. Game Boy Pocket. Well, let's start with the original. Great games. Really underrated, I think, to play today. The screen not being backlit is not nearly as big of an issue on this as it is the color. I really like the original Game Boy. When I play original Game Boy games, I'm playing them on this. Or the Pocket, one of these two. I don't like to play them on the Advance. It just feels weird. So I like to play them on this. Game Boy is really good. I'm trying to think of where it should go, though. Maybe C tier. We'll put the Intellivision in front of it, which I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. They're probably about tied for me. Game Boy Pocket, we're gonna put right in front of the Game Boy. I think its screen's a little easier to see. It takes 2 AAAs rather than 4 AAAs. So it's just a little better. And I really like the visibility of both the screens on these. Yeah, both incredible game libraries, and they're very fun still to play even today. So the Super Nintendo, I would say, is probably like, it's an easy S. I mean, there's just so many fantastic games on the Super Nintendo, and the addition of the bumper, the controller is just such a perfect evolution from the original Nintendo. And in every way, really, I mean, so I think it's got to go above the NES. And yeah, it's going to go above the 2600. This is going to be our new S rank here. It's incredible. And the Gen 2 we'll just put with it. I think it's a little uglier, so we'll put it behind it. And it doesn't support S-Video. So this is far better in that aspect. CDI, I have a lot of games for it, but I have a lot of like the shittier games. Like I don't have like any of the iconic games. Like I would like to get Tetris for it. It's kind of what I'm looking for. Yeah, I mean, just boring system. Looks like a VCR. Controller is awful. Games that I've played are not very fun at all. Easy bottom of D tier for me. 32X, not like, this just has so much potential, but there's just not many games. Like Doom is pretty fun, but I mean, there's a lot better ways to play Doom. Like, I don't know. It's cool, but it was not well utilized. I'm gonna say right above the CDI. I think it could have been maybe even an A tier thing if they would have actually made some more games. Sega CD is far better for sure. A lot more games. It's cool. I even like a lot of the Genesis remakes with like advanced audio. I think that's really cool. I don't have this. I have the Model 2, but we'll just, I mean, it doesn't matter. It plays the same games. Sega CD, I'm going to put right in front of the Master System. I think C tier. Game Gear, very hard one to find working, but when you do, the games are pretty good. The Game Boy definitely has better games. I don't know. These Pong consoles are going to be at the bottom of C for sure. These are Master System. This is basically a portable Master System. And this does have the cartridge connector to play Master Systems. I'm going to put it above, even though I said I wasn't going to take backwards compatibility in too much of an account. You know, I think that's fair to do it that way. Sega Genesis. This is the Model 2 for some reason. Again, fantastic. The controller, again, is pretty good. Oh, here's the Model 1. I guess we'll do that. I mean, they're all the same pretty much. Even though I definitely prefer the Model 1 look, and the sound's a lot better. A lot of great classic games. I really like the sound as well. I'm gonna really pressured Nintendo to make the Super Nintendo. For me, it's an easy A tier, and these will just follow behind. CD of no experience. Neo Geo. Don't have many games, but Magician Lord's pretty fun. I do have a few games, so I know it's fantastic. We're gonna put it in B. At the end of B. I don't have much experience with the Neo Geo. I have it, but it's in a bin in the back of my basement. I don't have many games, but it is fantastic, and I know that it's awesome. It's just I need to get some more games. Jaguar CD. It's kind of a system where like I have some games, but it's like, oh man, I don't want to break my CD. You know, it's just something that breaks so frequently, and it's just kind of a scary thing to use. You really shouldn't be using them anymore. The games aren't the greatest. I think it's gonna be at the top of D. And just the reliability of the system today. That's another thing we're kind of taking into account is playing these things today. Like, I feel like the Neo Geo should be bumped down just for that reason. Just because playing it today, it's too expensive unless you get a multi-cart. Same with the CD. Every game, the system, you know, it's going to run you at least 800 working. The games, you know, they're crazy expensive, super rare, and they're just not worth it in my opinion. The original Jaguar is more reasonable. There's some okay games, but nothing great. I'm going to say it's below the Master System for me. Well, no, we're going to put it above. We'll do that. We'll break up the Game Gear and Master System. I don't know. Controller, I don't like the D-pad, and it was kind of false advertising, marketing in itself as a 64-bit console, which is technically true, but it just doesn't look. It's like nowhere near that in 64. So I don't know. It's a cool system. There's some good games, but it's not my favorite to play today. But I do love collecting for it though. I have the kiosk and tons of box games. I think it's cool, but in terms of actually playing it, not my favorite. But it can be fun. Game Boy Color. I absolutely hate the Game Boy Color and Advance. Not because of their games. Their games are both the color's not as good. Advance has amazing games. Seeing the screen on these things for me, and I've had tons of these units, they're terrible. I mean, you have to be like, God, you have to be right under like a light bulb to see these things. And I know there's attachments, but to me, it's always not been a fun experience playing these things. However, when you do, the games are really good. They're very good. So just for the game library alone, I'm going to put the color into B, and because it plays all the original Game Boy games in color. I don't know, it's hard, because if I'm playing Game Boy, I'm going to bump these up. I'm going to do this. I think for me, these are going into B. And I prefer to, I like these more than the color, really. So for me, that makes more sense. So we're on to the N64. Kind of a controversial one. You either love it or hate it. I'm definitely on more in the liking it side. The controller to me has never been a problem. You know, anyone who's played the system knows for 3D games you hold the center and the right prong, and the 2D games you hold each side. Once you figure that out, which takes about 5 seconds, it's to me the controller is very comfortable and fun to use, and I enjoy the games. There's not as many greats though as like the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. Like there's not that many great games, but their great games are really good. So for that reason, we're going to put it in the top of B tier, above the Commodore 64. We're actually going to bump the C64 down a little bit, right there. That makes sense, because for me, I'm definitely play the Commodore more than the Neo Geo. Virtual Boy, there's like 7 games. Wario Land's pretty fun, Mario Tennis is pretty fun, and that's about it in terms of your really good games. Pretty terrible and expensive to play today, and it legitimately does give me a headache whenever I use it. And I always have bad luck with these things. I'll use them for like 5 minutes, and then like one of the lenses will stop working. For me, it's going, man, it's better than the CDI though. Just Wario Land alone makes it better than the CDI. Sega Nomad, portable Genesis, but terrible screen. This is a hard one to rank. You know, it's cool, but it's kind of a pain to use, and the screen's not very good. It's hard, really hard. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of B. Good system, but the screen is very washed out, and it's just not the greatest for a lot of the Genesis games. Sega Saturn, I've played a little bit. It's not my most played. Not because I don't like it. Again, it's just the issue of finding games for it. Controller is great. The game system itself, it seems to be very reliable from what I've experienced that I've had. And the games I have played are extremely fun. There's a lot of games on the Sega Saturn that I enjoy a lot, and while there's not very many, the ones that are good are very fun. So for me, I'm putting it at the top of C. I don't have any Japanese games, and I know that's a big part of the Sega Saturn is the Japanese library, but off my personal experience, off of the few US games that I do have, it's a C. So the Neo Geo Pocket Color, I basically just have Pocket Fighters and the Pac-Man and a few other ones, but awesome. I really like the D-pad, and the screen is a lot more visible than the Game Boy Color to me. But again, I have like 2 games, so it's tough. I'm going to put it below the Pong consoles. I don't have the original Pocket. I know that's probably going to be weird, but that's just how it's going to be. It feels weird even. These are tricky. I mean, these are just like... It's hard. I mean, because I would rather play some of these than these, but just from a historical standpoint and that they are cool, we're gonna leave them here, but whatever. I think they're really cool, and I do enjoy. I have tons of Pong consoles, and I really like collecting them, and just to see the different things that they do. So I don't know. They probably shouldn't be in C tier, but I'm such a fanatic for the really old stuff like that I just really like them. So the Sony PlayStation, the PS1, I was not a big fan of, 5 years ago, 4 years ago from now, but oh my God, there's some great games on this system. Amazing games. Like, I really regret not getting on it earlier, really. For me, God, there's some great games. It's either S or an A for me. The reliability sucks. That's the only thing. Like, it's hard to find one that actually works good. Like, I play all my PS1 games on a PS2. I'm going to put it in S. I think it's a really good system. And we'll put this one up there with it. Slim version. 3DO is... I've yet to find a game that I enjoy in the 3DO. I have a system. I have like 20 games. But they're all like the FMV games. Kind of like the CDI. I think it is better than the CDI though. So we will put it above. And we'll just put these together. This model I've never had, but whatever. Gamecom I've never had. Original Xbox, not my favorite. Again, I know there's great games, but I hate the controller. It just, whenever I use it, my hands get really sore, if that makes sense. Like, it's too big for me. I don't know what the deal with that is, but I've never liked the controller, and that's even with the Slim, not even the Duke. Couldn't imagine using that, but there is some good games, though. Like, I would... Xbox, I'd probably rather play the Saturn than the original Xbox, I would say. They're pretty close in terms of playtime that I've spent on them. Game Boy Advance, fantastic library and graphics and sound, but the screen is awful again. I see the SP here, which is definitely going to be far beyond this. The SP I'm going to put straight into A tier, great console. Advance, I'm sorry, for me it's going somewhere. I don't know if it's B or... It's going to go at the end of B tier. Screen is terrible. This is awesome, and it's much better. This is more comfortable to hold, though, I will say. Game Boy Micro. I had one of these, but I did sell it, but I did experience it. I'm going to put it above the original, but the screen is... Nah, we're going to put the original above it. I mean, the screen's just too small. I mean, like, try to play, like, Castlevania on that thing. It's just too small. maybe for the simpler games, but for anything complex, to me, it's just too small. GameCube, I feel, is very overrated. I mean, you'll see. I am going to put it up, somewhere up here, but I think it's overrated. There is definitely some fantastic games on the console. The controller is great, but is it the best of all time? No. To me, it's not even close. Is it very good? Yes. And I will put it above the N64. The N64, though, they're close for me. They're really close. I'm going to put it above it, if it'll let me. Okay. I will put it above the N64. Just for, I don't know, just the Mario Kart being a lot better, pretty much. N-Gage I've never had. Dreamcast, great console. For some reason, I've never played Sonic Adventure, which I'm needing to do soon, but I was just actually playing the Dreamcast the other day. I was playing Resident Evil, and it was really fun. Dreamcast is one I don't play much, but when I do, I really enjoy myself, just like the Saturn. Like, I really like it when I play it, but I don't play it very much. The controller is not my favorite. I'm going to put it up. Is it better than the Xbox? I don't know. We'll put it above the Xbox. Even though, I mean, these three really could be swapped around, in my opinion. PS2, the best-selling console of all time, and it really deserves it. I mean, there's some great games, and the fact that you can play PS1 games on it is awesome. And I use component cables, so that basically lets you play PS1 with component video. I think the exclusives are, for me, the kind of games I like. I think the PS1 has a little bit better exclusives, but that does not mean there's not some fantastic games here, like Sly Cooper and the Ratchet and Clanks, and there is some really good games. The reliability sucks. It's absolutely horrible. It's hard, especially these fat ones. It's impossible to get one that works good. Oh, man, is it better than the GameCube? I don't know. I think it is. I mean, it just depends on the kind of games you want to play. Like multiplayer, no, the GameCube will smash this every day. But single player, I mean, they're pretty close. It might be an A tier for me. I don't know. I mean, this is tough. It's really tough. These choices I'm making, I mean, they're just kind of quick, as you're seeing here. There's no planning. This is just completely unscripted. This is going to be a long video. We're already at 27 minutes. 360. Never been my favorite. This generation, I mean, it's not the funnest to go back to, in my opinion. It is a great system, though. For me, I don't revisit these games very much, the 360. Like, I actually play Turbo actually more, which I don't even play Turbo that much. But the games that are on it are very good. I feel bad putting it in C tier. Like, I feel like it should be up here. Yeah, we'll put it up here. It's not my most played, but there is some really good games, and we'll put all the models up there with it. Well, actually, we'll do that. That makes a little more sense. Red Ring of Death, terrible. DS Lite. This was an OG system for me. Really good games. Again, not like the biggest quantity of games that I personally am like clamoring to play. I don't go back to this one either very much. I grew up with like the 6th and 7th gen of systems, so this is like one of my main ones that I would play, and this is just not one I go back to, but I love it. The games that are on it, definitely for me, and it plays GBA, the DS Lite as well. It's hard. We're gonna put it right here. I think that's fair. DSi XL is, to me, a downgrade because it doesn't play Game Boy Advance. Bigger screens, but I don't care. Those screens are fine. So this is just the DS library. I'm gonna put this on the other side of the Neo Geo. Original DS, not as good as screens, kind of uncomfortable, but it does play GBA. So we'll do that right here. DSi, never really cared for this one. Again, just right below DSi XL. Same thing with smaller screens. Wii Mini, I don't really, we'll just put it with the Wii, I guess. So the Wii, because today there's no real benefit either way, other than this one has GameCube support, which is really cool. Again, really good games on the Wii. I liked the motion controls. It was kind of gimmicky, but I think it's really fun, a lot of the games, and I think it's held up well. But is it better than PS2? I really don't think so. I don't play this one very much either. I'm gonna put it right below the DS. How about that? We'll put the Wii Mini with it. PlayStation 3, I'm gonna put right above the 360 because there's more exclusives that I like on the PS3. And the reliability is a lot better. And this is, we'll just say this is the backwards compatible, so that's definitely on top. But worse reliability, but best function. And PSP, not my favorite. A few good games that I like, but I like the size of it. The screen's good. It was cool when it came out, for sure. But I don't play it nearly as much. I'm going to put it... I'd rather play it than the Game Gear, though. But not... I'd rather play the Sega CD, I think. And the PSP Go is... I mean, you can't really use it anymore because the store is gone, so... Cool. Kind of look like an old flip phone, but we're going to put it right here. Just because it's kind of pointless now. Stadia, definitely never use that. Xbox One, here's the regular one. Okay. It's hard because this is still like a supported platform, so that's going to be hard for like the PS5 and the Series X because, you know, they're just kind of starting out, so it's hard to really say. Xbox One, great games, great controller. It's really a good system. I mean, there's nothing really I can complain about with it. The exclusives to me are less, like, I'm going to put the PS4 above it for sure, but, you know, very fun. I'm going to say it's really good. But I personally, I think I play these systems more, the ColecoVision. I probably played it a little more than the 5200 though. At least right now. Like, obviously I'll get in kicks, you know, with each one. Like, I'll play Xbox One all the time, but... And then these models are better. The X we'll put right above. 2DS, XL, I've never... Or no, I did have one, but I sold it. I mean, it's basically the same. These are all basically the same thing. So, where's just the regular 3DS? Right here. Great games, great size. I think I like the small one, really. I like the original, kind of chunkier one the best, I think. I don't know, the new 3DS XL is kind of nice too, but really good system, great exclusives. I'm going to put it below the Wii, though, for at least for me personally, and just put all these ones behind it. Well, I guess we'll put these. So, actually, this is probably the best, really, technically. And then the new 3DS in the normal size, and then 3DS XL. I like the smaller one better for that. And we'll put the 2DS XL and then the slab 2DS, I call it. Now we're on to the Switch. I think Nintendo I think they really kicked ass with this system. I mean, it came out, people weren't really too sure. I bought it on day one, and I have not regretted it at all. I mean, there's fantastic games. You can bring them anywhere. You can play them anywhere. I kind of feel like an advertisement, but it's awesome, really. I can't think of, I mean, for me, I play this all the time, and exclusives are so good. I'm gonna put it at the top. I think I'm gonna put it up here. I think it really is that good. The Switch Lite is kind of pointless in my opinion. I mean, to me, to spend the extra $100 and get one that can play on the TV, but you're still getting the great game library. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of A, because you are still getting the same great games. Let me reorder this up here. These two are tough for me. I'll do that so we get a little less hate in the comments. The Wii U. Good games, but it's kind of been outdated by the Switch. I mean, most of the good games, there's a better version on the Switch. Most of them. Obviously, there is exceptions. But when it came out, I played this a lot, and I really think it is a good... I think it deserved to sell a lot more than it did. I think it's worse than the 3DS. It's like, now I would rather play the Neo Geo than it, really. I mean, it's so hard, because it's like... Really, this should be at the bottom of D tier, because I'm never really going to play it again now that the Switch is out. But, I mean, I can't do that. That's not really true. Is it better than the PS3? We'll put it above the 360. How about that? We'll put it right there, between the 360 and PS3. Ouyo never had. Neo Geo X, no. PS4. Here's the original. So, they put a freaking gaming PC on here? Okay. PS4, great exclusives, great system, and it was a little more powerful than the Xbox One. I like the controller better than the Xbox One. I really like everything about it more. It looks cooler, even though it doesn't really matter. We're gonna... PS4. We're gonna put it above the N64. How about that? The Slim right behind it, and the Pro we're gonna put above it, even though it's very loud in operation. PlayStation TV, I don't have that, but that's basically this, but it doesn't have a screen. Vita, I have like 2 games for the Vita. The hardware is awesome, but games aren't the best. I think it's worse. I feel like there's better games on the PSP, but again, I'm not the Vita guy. You know, this isn't the PS Vita channel. I'm not an expert on it. I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm gonna play the Jaguar. But in that logic, am I gonna play Pong over the Vita? Probably not. Like, you know, am I gonna play Uncharted or am I gonna play Pong? You know. I don't know. I mean, I would rather play the Pocket Color, I think. But I know it's a great system, so it's like I don't want to put it up here. But it's my list, so I'm gonna put it there. For me, that's where it is. But it's definitely better than these ones. Evercade never had. So Series X. I'm kind of frustrated with this one, really. I mean, I bought it, you know, right around when it came out, and there's just been nothing, like no exclusives, really. I mean, the game lineup has been disappointing. Not that the games are bad, but if you have an Xbox One, I don't know. Obviously, it's better than the Xbox One, but I think it has great potential, but I just don't know. We're just going to put it there. How about that? The Series S, I do not like at all. I think it's really stupid. As 500 gigs of storage, less performance, no disk drive. Again, just spend the extra money and get the Series X. To me, there's really not much reason to get this unless you can't find a Series X. And I feel like that's the only reason they're really selling these. But it's like, does it really go all the way down here for that reason? No. I'm gonna put it below the 360. I mean, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of these digital consoles. This I own, but it's sealed. I didn't open it. Switch OLED is easy up here, right above the Switch. Well, I guess we could bump this down because of that. We'll put this regular Switch right here. I think that's a good way to do it. PlayStation 5. There's some good exclusives already, far more than their Xbox Series X. Better controller. I like the haptic feedback and the triggers and everything. It's huge, but I think it has a bright future. I think we're going to put it right below the SP. You know, it's hard because technically the PS2 right now is better, but I got a feeling about it. And then I didn't bother with any of these. I might get the Steam Deck one day, but I think the gaming computer. I mean, really, the gaming computer you'd put in S tier because you can play any of these games on it. But we're not even going to count that. That's kind of stupid in my opinion. So yeah, I think that's it. I'm sorry this was so long, but these are, in my opinion, remember that. So I'm sure a lot of you guys would not have ColecoVision in B tier, but anyway, if you guys enjoyed, subscribe and let me know. Maybe I'll do like a vintage computer tier list. I don't know, but we'll see. In any case, hope you enjoyed watching this and you have a fantastic rest of your day.